Namaskar, I'm Devdeep Purkayastha from the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. Welcome to our course. Before I get into today's module, just let me take a minute to remind you that this course is based and tries to help you do what we call discipline innovation. Innovation in a disciplined way, in a structured way, in a formatted way, so that you don't have to waste time too much. You can heighten your chances of success. You can avoid rework, and hopefully you can solve relevant, meaningful, scalable problems with differentiated, novel solution which wins in the market. And as part of all of this, the key is to make sure that your technology is ready for deployment, and that it can be commercialized either through a productivization or through licensing, etc. So this is the key concept of what we call discipline innovation. And the course, just to remind you, is structured like that. So we talked about the 8 different modules. Today is the 8th one. We started with an overview of what is discipline innovation, which is part of the accelerated startup discovery process. We talked about how to identify meaningful problems that you can solve with your solutions and technology. We talked about the framework for product development, all the way from customer value proposition to ready for production and supply chain. We talked about winning in the market, different elements of winning in the market. We talked about how to assess your technology through the TRL concept, the TRL framework, technology readiness level framework. We talked about technology commercialization and research translation, which means how do you use your research if you are an R&D manager in a company, or if you are a research lab head, or a PhD student, or a doctoral, or a master's student. How do you translate your research into real world impact? And typically you will need to follow that framework, because some of the research may have very long gestation period, and either upfront investment or phased investment, which you can probably see the results, see the real impact, see the real deployment only after years. And therefore, this discipline innovation method is extremely important. Today is a very interesting topic. What we'll try and do today is 2 things. One is we will encourage you now to practice what you have learned through a capstone project. The capstone project, which I'm going to talk to you in a moment, is something which I encourage each of you to do, so that each of you can practice what you have learned through the course. More importantly, as you do the capstone project, you can actually have a business plan. So whether you're a student or a working professional in a company, or a brand manager, R&D manager, product manager, or an MSME owner, or an entrepreneur, you can actually have a business plan as you go through this capstone project. So that's the first thing we're going to talk today. But making a capstone project is not easy. Making a business plan is not easy. What you have seen in our lectures, in the video, the skilling videos, are the theoretical concepts. But that will not automatically translate for you to create a business plan. In the real world, if you had to do a lot of commercial research, go out to the real world, meet customers, do lab, laboratory research, etc., just to come up with your first plan may take weeks, months, maybe a year. So we will try to make it easy for you. because we have created an AI-based tool, an artificial intelligence-based tool, which we use with our students at IIT Bombay in our regular coursework, and we'll show it to you. We'll give you a demonstration, but with one important disclaimer, which is that AI tools are still AI. So an AI tool is not a substitute for real market work, real laboratory work, real research, real talking to customers, but it gives you a starting point. Sometimes you take weeks, months talking to hundreds of people, spending hours at the lab just to come up with a plan. So the AI tool will help you create a plan, which is basically what we are asking you for in the capstone project. The plan itself, once you have got, is a starting point. I'll repeat, the plan will be your starting point. That plan, once you have got, you will have to go and validate it in the laboratory for the technology side, the solutioning side. You have to go and talk to a lot of customers. You have to build prototypes, real-world prototypes. You have to do all the winning in market, branding, advertising, pricing, promotions, unit economics, supply chain, logistics, distribution, etc. But as part of this course, we encourage you to do both the things. We encourage you to use the AI tool. We'll show you how to get access. We'll provide you a time-bound access for a few weeks when the course is running. And on the side, as you're watching the videos and doing the assignments, you can practice creating a business plan. With the AI tool, we'll give you the access for that duration. And we hope you'll come up with a business plan. So with that, let's move on to what does the business plan look like. Remember, the business plan format that we're going to show you is just a template. Feel free to adapt it, expand it, edit it, put in more, where if you don't have data, put in less, use the AI tool. So I'm now going to take you through 6 or 7 very simple slides, which is like your pitch deck. It's like a business plan template. And any of you who have been presenting your startups, who have been presenting to management, if you are a working professional, if you are an MSME who are presenting to your funding agencies or your funders, all of you will be familiar with some version of a business plan or some version of a pitch deck. I'm just going to give you suggestion on how you can write a business plan and submit it. So the first slide is just put your team name, your project name, whatever the name of your project is, and who are you? Either you as a learner or your team. So this is the title slide. And then the first slide normally is the introduction. Who are you? And 1 or 2 tips that I'll give you is that all funders, angel investors, or banks, or funding agencies, before they give you the money or the funds, they look at who you are, your capabilities, your credibilities, before they get into the plan. Because you can have a great plan, but if you are not a great founder or a great team, chances are the funding agency, be it a private investor, angel investor, a bank, or a government agency, will hesitate to give you funds. So it's very important that you write a proper introduction. Okay, most of you probably have done your self-introduction, but use that introduction in terms of this capstone project. So you start with an introduction, adapt the slides, modify the template as you want to. Normally, the second part of a business plan or a business presentation is always the problem that you're going to solve. And here is where you can use the course material, which is the HC template. And here is where you can also use the AI tool. We're going to show you the AI tool in a while. So use the skilling video, use the HC template, and then use the AI tool itself. So what is the problem that you are solving? It could be a transportation problem. It could be a clean air problem. It could be an agricultural problem. It could be a defense-related problem. It could be a medical problem. It could be an educational problem. So what is the problem? And remember the framework which we talked, the first module of problem discovery. The first question is, who is the customer? What are the demographics, the economics? Are they rich people, poor people, middle class people? Are they farming people? Are they medical staff? So who is the customer? Are they urban? Are they rural? So who is the customer? What are the customer segments? The second question, of course, is how big is the market? Because you don't want to solve a problem, whether you are a researcher or whether you are a working professional or an MSME owner or an entrepreneur. You don't want to solve a problem where the total demand may be a few lakhs. You want to solve a problem where the market itself may be hundreds or thousands of crores, millions or hundreds of millions of dollars. So who's the customer? What's his profile, the persona, the segments? And then how many of them are there and how much will they buy? So with which you can estimate the market and different kinds of market estimation. Immediately after that, the key question you should address in your business plan presentation and which funders and your investors will look for is, okay, we understand the problem, we understand the customer, we understand it's a large market, but what is the competitive landscape? So if you're working to get into a very crowded market, for example, televisions, washing machines, motorcycles, cars, apparel, etc., there are a lot of competitors. So what will be the competitive landscape? Because it is important that if everybody is crowded, if the market is very, very crowded, how will you enter? How your solution will be different from competitive solutions. It's very important that you understand not only the customer in the market, but also your competitors. So your first part of the business plan should cover all of this. Once you have got the customer, market, competitive landscape, the next question that your business plan should address and you should be able to answer to your investors or your bosses if you are a working professional working in a company is, what is the solution? And what is the unique value proposition? So what is the solution in terms of if you are making an EV battery or a medical device or an irrigation device, or if you are working on one district, one product kind of a solution. For example, a jam, a fruit product, a farming product, a chemical product, a fishery product. What is the solution? And why will it be better than what exists in the market? So at the top end, very sophisticated end, you may be working on a quantum device, quantum computing device. That's very, very sophisticated. And how will you be different from what exists in the market? Or a semiconductor chip, or a cryogenic device. That's very sophisticated. And how will you be different from what exists? There are a lot of big companies in that space. And if you're looking at affordable technology, sauce, juice, fishery, farming, drones, robotics, okay, how will you be different? What is your design? And how will you be different? And remember the solution, follow the product development, solution development, the video, the module that we talked earlier in the course. Use that framework to make sure that you've gone through all the steps. Next is, even if you've designed a solution and you've got a good value proposition defined, how will be different from others, what is the readiness level of your technology? If it's at the high end, drones, robots, unmanned systems, or whether you are doing a health food, some health biscuits, or you're doing a new kinds of bangles or stonework, or doing some sort of a machining work, or a forest product. What is your technology readiness level? Are you at the concept stage, technology TRL 1 or 2? Remember what we said in the video? Rewatch that video. Or are you at TRL level 3 and 4, which means you've got some proof of concepts, you've started working on prototypes, and so on. So once you've got a handle on the technology readiness level, the next question is, what are the unit economics? Again, go back to the video and our module on solution and product development, and we'll show you later how the AI tool can be of use. So what are your unit economics? If you're making a drone, what is the price of the drone? If you're making a medical device, what is the price per unit of medical device? If you're a service, what is the cost of service per customer? What is the cost of subscription? Because even if you're doing a SaaS model, you will have costs. If you're doing e-commerce, there'll be a cost to serve. And many companies go wrong because their unit economics don't justify the price. And for every unit that they sell, they make losses. And the more they sell, the more money they lose. And they become loss-making and they die. So what are your unit economics? So all of this will come under product development. And once you've got your customer defined, your value proposition defined, your solution designed, and your unit economics right, then the question is, how do you win in the market? So here are some elements which you have covered in a module on winning in the market. So what is your plan to win in the market? And remember, there are many elements to that. The first key element is, will you define a brand? Because whatever you use, whatever solution, whatever product, whatever technology that you use, it's good to brand it. So people will know and remember what your product is called. And then positioning. We talked about it. Are you going to be a premium priced, volume priced? So what will be your price positioning? What will be the positioning in the market versus competitors? Remember, we talked about advertising, online and offline. So just to recap, online is digital. It will be social media or Google search or internet, websites. And offline can be just billboards, signboards that you put up, posters, etc. And then the supply chain logistics. Where will you make it? How will you distribute it? Where are your warehouses? Where are your trucks? How will you fulfill the order if a customer gives you an order? And then the distribution channels, online and offline. Online will be Amazon, Flipkart, Swiggy, Zomato, the quick service platforms, or the normal e-commerce platform. And offline will be the stores, the malls, the shops, the kirana outlets. And then is your pricing strategy. What will be your pricing strategy? Will it be premium priced, volume priced, discount priced, subscription priced, unit based, freemium, etc.? And then a promotional strategy. Will you give discounts, introductory discounts, volume discounts, buy 4, you get some discounts, 1+1 discount? And then how will you sell? If you're selling to businesses, what is your business to business sales plan? And if you're selling to consumers, what is your sales plan to sell to consumers? So this will be your winning in the market plan. Capture this in this slide. Have more than one slide. I'm just showing you the elements. Modify this slide, adjust this slide, expand this slide, but create your plan. And this is a very simple way to present a business plan. It's not very long, it's not very complicated, but to get to this plan, you need to do either a lot of physical research, work in the laboratory, talk to customers, talk to funders, talk to suppliers, talk to partners, distribution channels, etc. And the easy way to start is something which I'm going to show you next, which is an AI tool which will help you get started. So let's move on to the tool which you can use along with the modules and the skilling videos that is part of this course. So here's the tool. We call it the ASDP Explorer AI Tool. This is a tool which is based on ChatGPT, which probably all of you use. If you don't use, please download the app or make sure that you can access it on your laptop and have an account. You don't need a paid account. A free account is good enough. So please make sure that either in your phone or in your laptop, you can access ChatGPT. I'm going to show you the access code in the next slide. But before that, let me just explain. What this tool does is basically it works on my book, which is called the Accelerated Startup Discovery Process. It is a methodology. It's a process that I've been using at IIT Bombay for years to help my students discover their startups. Because the challenge of a startup, or if you're a working professional, the challenge of launching a new product, or if you're an MSME owner, the challenge of getting a new product in the market is that you may not have a customer defined, you may not have a brand, you may not have past data, you may not have a business model, you may not have pricing. You have to discover all of this. And if you do it in an unstructured way, chances are that you will spend a lot of time, maybe spend money, and then you have to keep reworking, and ultimately you may not get the customers or the sales, or even if you get the customers and sales, you may not make money, or you may get out-competed. And as seen in the course right from the first module, a failure rate of products is very high. Failure rate of startups is very high. And what we try to do with this process, the Accelerated Startup Discovery process, okay, is how to minimize the rework, minimize the time, discover, which means try, test, fail, learn, adjust, try again, and it's a loop. So the ASDP itself has got 12 stages, and suffice it to say that the discipline innovation framework is actually embedded in the ASDP process, and the tool itself is based on that methodology. I'm going to give a demonstration, but I suggest that you stop the video here and you can access this tool on your browser or your smartphone by scanning the QR code, or there's a short URL at the bottom in red. You can just type it or paste it in your phone or your browser. Take a screenshot of this slide and you can access the tool anytime using the QR code or the link that I have written below. So once you have started, let me show you how the Explorer works with a few case studies on the tool itself. So let's look at the tool. All right, let's start with the demo. So when you scan the QR code or you type the URL that you saw in the video, the ASDP tool will ask you to type start to begin. So you type start, and once I've started the tool, you will get a prompt like this. And then you will see that there are three options. First, startup plan for entrepreneurs. So if you're a student or an aspiring entrepreneur or even a working professional who wants to start his or her own business, you choose option 1. If you are an MSME owner, or if you're a working professional, a brand manager, an R&D manager, or a product manager in a company, and you want to do business development for your existing brand, you can choose option 2. If you want to explore technology solutions and commercialization pathways based on the TRL framework, you can option 3. Or you can just type a question. And if you want to come back, you just have to say start again. So what I have now typed is just a question. Give me 4 ideas for startups, because most entrepreneurs, even researchers or students, don't always have a ready-made idea. And they may want to explore different kinds of ideas. It could be across different domains. So I've just written, give me 4 ideas for startups. And let's see what it has done. So based on the ASDP discovery principles, which is running in the back end, it's just generating 4 ideas. And here's the first idea, which is agri data credit for fintech for small farmers. It gives the problem, it gives a high-level solution, it gives you the customer profiles, it gives a value proposition, it gives you a revenue model, and then why should you do it? Remember, that's still at a very high level. We are still discovering, and we'll see that there are many levels of discovery. You can go deeper and deeper and deeper. Another one option that the tool has generated is the medical track, health tech supply chain. And you can read it for yourself. What is the problem? What is the solution? Essentially, all the equipment when you go to a hospital that you see, they have to be maintained. And many of them actually break down or are not maintained well. So can you make a predictive maintenance platform for all the hospital equipment? And then you look at the customer segments, diagnostic labs, small hospitals, medical distributors, etc. Very powerful value proposition, never lose a day of diagnosis, which means your machines are always working. And then what's your revenue model? It's proposing a SaaS. And why is it important? Because there are some funding opportunities. Okay? Remember, the AI tool will only give you ideas. You have to validate them in the real world with your customers, in the laboratory for solution testing, proof of concept, etc. But moving on from the ideation point of view, okay, the next one is about AI skilling employability for ITIs. These are ITIs, and many of them have challenges because the skills, the vocational skills that they learn at the ITIs, okay, may not be enough to get a job. And therefore, you need additional skills and additional certifications from platforms like NPTEL or National Skill Development Platform. And what the tool, this AI tool is saying, the ASDP Explorer is saying is, you could actually do a startup around that. And you can see customer segments. You can look at the value proposition. You can look at the revenue model and why is it important. Okay? Again, this is an idea to be validated. Then, again, an interesting idea is about circular commerce for e-commerce packaging. so that the waste that is created, for example, if you look at all the e-commerce deliveries that you get from Swiggy, Zomato, Flipkart, Amazon, there's a lot of plastic packaging and they get wasted. You throw them in the bin and there is no way to get it back or reduce the plastic waste. And it is giving you a draft solution. Okay? It is giving you customer segments, is giving you value proposition, and is giving you revenue model, etc. So you may want to develop one of these into a full ASDP startup plan. Okay? And maybe you want to choose a model and then figure out what does a plan look like. So the tool will help you do this. Let's pick any one of them. Okay? I'm just scrolling up and down. Okay? And we're just going to take maybe the first one. Okay? So we're going to choose option 1 when it prompts, and we're going to type 1, just 1, that's it, and we press enter, and let's see what it develops. Since this tool is based on the ASDP format, okay, the business plan, okay, will also be as part of the ASDP format. Here's the startup idea. You can read it for yourself. And I strongly recommend don't just watch the video, test it out yourself. You can access the tool yourself. Okay. So the tool will itself give you the industry and the domain overview. How big is the market? What's driving the market? What are the pain points that the farmers have or the food processing organization have, essentially around agri-credit. And then if you scroll down, the tool will show you potential customer segments and use cases. Again, just to remind you, and I'll keep talking about it over and over and over again, is that the tool will just give you a starting point. You have to go and talk to all of these people, okay, that you can see on the screen and validate it, because not everything will be correct. Ultimately, running at the background is an AI based on my ASDP process. Okay? What's the market size? The addressable market, serviceable addressable, and which is the market that you want to enter. What is the value proposition? You can read it yourself. What are the functional gains? Because in a value proposition, okay, you will probably have to provide functional benefits, which you can read on the screen, and also emotional benefits. Now, once you've got the market, customer, then you have to start thinking about the product and the solution design. So here are some high level, TRL 1-2 level kind of products and solution design, and you can read it on the screen. I'm not going to get into the details of the plan. It will take too long, but you can test it out yourself. But I'm just going to show you more the template and the format by which you'll get an output. It's also telling you how you can create MDP, a minimum desirable product. Now, once you have got the customer, market, value proposition, and the solution design, then the question comes, how do I market it? How do I win in the market? So you need a brand name, you need taglines. So it's giving you some brand names and it's giving you some nice taglines. Once you've got the brands and the taglines, etc., you are ready to start selling. So what does your sales and distribution channel look like? And you can read on the screen, and I suggest that you test it out. I'm just showing you the format by which you'll get an output. And then what are the key skills required? Either in yourself, more importantly in your team, in your startup team. Now, the tool itself will ask you, okay, do you need more information on the technology side? Okay. For example, do you want the technology pathways? Do you want the pricing and the unit economics? Do you want the roadmap, the product roadmap? Do you want to check out on government support? And do you want a launch or a 3-year action plan? Let's just try number B, just randomly. We're just going to type B, and let's see what pricing and unit economics the tool provides. Remember, it will show it on the, as per the ASDP format, because the logic is the ASDP. So it's telling you, the tool is giving you some idea to be validated by you. You have to go and validate it in the real market with real customers in terms of what can be your revenue streams and what kind of revenues can you get. Remember, we are talking about a technology solution here. So many of you in this course may not be technology specialists, but we'll have other kinds of solutions and demonstrations in a minute. So here you're getting your revenue streams, okay? And then here are some cost structures, because to make a business, you also will incur costs. Again, you're getting some indicative cost structure. You have to go and validate. Every item has to be validated here in the real world, and then you're getting unit economics. And then those of you who are familiar with finance side of it, okay, you'll find that the unit economics are given on a per firma basis, okay? Because it's no point if your unit economics are negative, which means the more you sell, the more you lose. So it talks about cost of acquisition and lifetime value. LTV is lifetime value. Cost of acquisition is how much you have to spend to get a new customer. And therefore, the ratio is there. And then how to break even? Because if you raise some money, the funder, the angel investor, or the banking or the microfinance person will ask you about how to break even. And that's giving you that if you get about so many farmers, in this particular case, you'll start breaking even. And then it gives you a 3-year financial snapshot. Again, all of this is just a template and just a starting point. It's just an idea. It's just a plan. You have to validate it. So you've got all of that. And then it's also giving you some more detailed financial, which you need to go out and validate. And therefore, you're looking at valuations. Those of you who are familiar with startups, okay, you will see that you can get valuation, some estimated. And therefore, you can get into road mapping and government and mission support mapping, Startup India, NABARD, etc. So for this particular example, you're just going to type D and see what kind of government support are available. So I've just typed D. I'm going to click on this. So getting all the schemes and the support, and you should go to the websites and you check it out. Because just to get this information for my students earlier in IIT Bombay, it used to take weeks and months. But now, with this tool, I can help you get some basic information very quickly, as you can see in minutes. And then you go and do the follow-up work, because now we've got a guideline. So you can see there are different kinds of government funds, but you have to do the hard work of reading up, reading the details. And then it's saying what you should do in terms of overall positioning, partnership, eligibility, and compliance. But there are risks. So it's also telling you about the risk. And you can see things like any digital startup will have risk around data privacy and user consent, etc. And there are, of course, some other disclaimers. So we're going to stop here now. So this is the first example. And very quickly now, let me show you a few other examples in few other domains. This was a technology domain. Then let's look at few other domains. So this is a second example. Again, what you have to do is just scan the QR code or type the link that you have seen in the video, and you will come to this and it will ask you for a prompt. And you say start and you get started. For this, you will need even a free ChatGPT account is fine. But if you are a free account holder, there will be limits. So you may probably be able to run 1 example, 2 examples, 3 examples, but after that, you'll get locked out for a few hours. But through the day, you can generate a few plans. But remember, the trick or the key is not to generate more and more plans. The key is to develop a plan and then go out in the real world and check it out. Okay? Because that's when you actually get a realistic business plan which you can work on and make some money. Okay? So here I've taken the example of how to upgrade my machining business in Pune. This is typically a problem that many MSME owners face, that they may have machinery or some small scale industry across domains, and how do you upgrade? So this is not a very high tech, completely new, but this is kind of just upgrading an existing business. So I have typed that, and let's see what the tool is saying. So now it will ask you, just so you can answer better, in terms of what business are you in, what kind of machining business are you in, what is your current scale, who are your customers. Remember, this is now not a startup. The previous example was about a startup, starting from nothing. This, the question is, you have a business, you want to upgrade it. So I'm just randomly choosing something. Okay? So let's say we are making precision components, okay, for automotive. And what the tool is saying is that it will give you all of these if you can just give some details. So I'm going to type precision components for cars. So I'm typing precision components for cars. So this is my existing business, okay? And my question is, how do I grow it? And the tool is programmed with the ASDP framework. So it'll try and give you a draft plan, which you then have to test out yourself in the real world. And it's giving you some business profile. For example, Pune has a lot of automotive and automotive component manufacturers. So you can see this, it's giving you a business profile. It's giving you some growth plans. And it's starting with the market. You can see that it's in the market. Giving you different kinds of demand. For example, EV, BS6, and the opportunities for tier 2 vendors. You can read it yourself, but more importantly, you test for your own idea on your own business. I'm just going to show you some examples of how the tool responds. It's giving you customer segments and use cases. So everything that you have learned in this course in terms of customer discovery is giving you options. Because the question was, how do I upgrade my business? So it's also giving you how you can upgrade your technology. Again, this is in the technology domain, but later on I'll show you some examples on handicrafts and artisans. So it's giving you some ideas on diversifying. You can also do some cost and experience-based innovation. It's giving you some channels of communication to reaching out to your customers. It's giving you some indicative financials. Again, all of this needs to be validated. See this only as a template, but all of this needs to be validated. You have to check the cost of the machines. You have to check the cost of your revenues, profits, etc. It's also giving you some government support and schemes. For example, production leak incentive. So let's start with number 3, standards, certifications, and risk. Let's see what it says. Just type 3 and see what it says. Just to give you a feel of the scope of the ASDP Explorer. So there are certain ISO standards and other standards which, if you can qualify for, it helps you gain business. You can read it yourself and you can test it yourself for your own ideas. So it's also talking about risk. It's talking about compliance and documentation. If you are not an MSME owner, you may not know most of this, and even if you're an MSME owner with this line of business, you may not know all of it. So it's always helpful. So it's like a third person who's telling you about the business. Ultimately, as the business owner, it is your choice to follow the advice of this third party, like it, not like it, use it, not use it. But see this as a third party which you need to keep validating. So it's talk about people that you can work with. So we're going to stop here now, and you have seen so far the first example, which is a startup example in the technology domain. The second example is an existing business and how to upgrade it either technically or commercially. We saw that example. Let's move on to one or two other examples from different kind of domains and different backgrounds. So again, we have restarted it. You can just type start, or if you're already checking out some ideas, you can start again and you'll come back to this screen. This is the first screen. Okay. This time, we'll do an example for artisans, and you can see what's on the screen. It is about that I'm a bangle maker in Jaipur, Rajasthan, and I'm having some problems in terms of quality because I'm wasting too much of raw material, or the final product is not as good. And of course, I want to increase my sales. So this is what I've asked the tool. The difference between a normal prompt and using this tool is this tool will give you a holistic answer. Okay? Because you don't have to do multiple prompting. With just one prompt, you can get the full ASDP business plan. Let's say. So you can see on the screen, I'm not going to get into the details, but you look at the format of the answer. It will start with the industry overview. We are starting with the overall industry, the market, the growth rates, the size, and then we get into the customers, segments, and use cases. This is what we talked in our course about customer discovery, and you can see that the tool is helping you do exactly what we said. So different kind of customer segments and use cases. and what are the problems which probably you are facing if you're a bangle maker in Jaipur, Rajasthan. Production efficiency, high waste, inconsistent quality, because everything is very manual. The question is, how do you improve? So improve sales. So it's giving some ideas to improve sales offline, and you have to test it out yourself. It's just giving you some ideas, and online, which means that you probably list yourself, you do some social media, etc., and some nice reels. Now we come to the production problems. One is waste, and it is saying, giving you some ideas. So if you are a bangle maker yourself, a real bangle maker, some of these answers may be known to you. Remember, none of us, whether it's me or any of you watching it or testing out the tool, will know every domain, every business, every startup idea. So I cannot gauge, and no one can gauge, whether this is the best solution, but these are some ideas which you can look at. It's also talking about government schemes, and how you can apply, improve quality of the final product. It's given some ideas, how to improve the product, and then a 3-year growth plan. Study it if you are a bangle maker and see if you can improve on it. So this is one example of how, if you're an artisan, okay, let's look at one more example. If you're an artisan, or if you're a one district, one product, or you're doing some rural project, some forest project, some village self-help groups project, and so on. Let's look at one more example. So we have started the tool, and this time again, we are going to look at some handicrafts, or one district, one product, artisan, micro business or small business kind of an example. This is about Kota stonework, and the question that I'm asking, assuming I'm a Kota stone manufacturer, is how do I improve quality of the product and how do I grow my sales? So again, the tool, the ASDP tool, is programmed. It'll take you through step by step versus a normal prompt. You can also give this prompt by yourself on a ChatGPT without using the ASDP tool, but then you have to give many prompts. Here, with one prompt, you'll follow the natural ASDP process, so it saves time. But before it gives the plan, it's asking for some basic inputs. Okay? So here's asking, what are the production capacity, product range, customer segments, current challenges, goals for next year? And then if you give some of these inputs, what is the specific problem, then it will give you some ideas based on the ASDP format and everything that we talked in the course. So for the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to type naturally polished stones for export. For export, and how to improve profitability, improve profits. So I'm just making up the problem. Okay, you can make up your own problems. Okay, but let's see how the tool reacts. And remember, it is following a very structured framework. So it's giving you the industry overview. Remember, we talked about customer and market discovery. We talked about competitors. And here we talked about global competitors, actually, Turkish, Vietnamese, and so on. Then the tool will give you the customer segments. You start making a business plan now, okay, India and outside India, because say we are an exporter. At least for the purpose of this example, we are saying that we are an exporter for polished stones. So here are some growth opportunities based on the ASDP format. And if you are actually a stone worker or a stone MSME business, you can actually understand whether they are the correct ideas or not. Not all of these ideas may be good, some of them may be bad, but maybe there will be one or two which are very good and which you want to test out. And then it's talking about sales and market development, and it's talking about different kinds of online and offline approaches. You can read it yourself and you can test it out yourself. It's giving some examples of financials, what it can look like. You have to do your own financials. And then how do you improve profitability? Because the question is, I'm not making enough money. So how do you improve profit? For example, reduce wastage. Relook at your sales channel margins and your raw material. And then government schemes and support. There are a lot of government schemes and support. Government is very industry friendly, increasingly, and wants to boost export and wants to boost Indian MSME versus the global competitors. And here are some ideas of next steps. And then it keeps asking you, based on the ASDP format, the discipline innovation format, what can it do next? So with that, we come to the end of the examples of the demonstration. You have the access. You have the QR code and the link. I strongly recommend that from today and over the next few days or next few weeks, please test out different business ideas. If you are a student or an entrepreneur, test out a new idea. If you are an MSME owner or a working professional in a large company, brand manager, R&D manager, product manager, test out how you can grow your own MSME business or you can grow the new products. Remember, this approach will also help increase the product success rate of even big companies, because in the very first modules you would have seen the failure rate of new products even for large companies. So it's not just that startups fail very often, it's also that new products from large companies also fail very, very often. Similarly, if you are running a research lab, if you are a researcher, if you are a research lab head, if you are an incubator head, if you are a professor, if you are a teacher, if you are running an incubation lab like an Atal Innovation Lab, use this tool to explore the market, because it's not enough just to do the research. It is not enough just to develop proof of concepts or theoretical design. For true success, one needs to explore techno-commercial, not just the techno, but also the commercial part of it. And this ASDP tool is designed for technology and commercial, techno-commercial exploration. We will provide free access for a certain number of weeks. Please use that. And with that, we have come to the end of this module. Thank you. Good luck in your explorations. I hope you come up with some business plans which will help you really learn about everything that we have shared in the course, a business plan which you may want to implement, a business plan which will help you in your career, a business plan with which you can create impact, and a business plan with which you can support national mission or uplift Indian society. Good luck. Thank you.